Good evening. Welcome to my lab. So you remember from a couple of years ago, we had the Intellivision Virtual Expo. Oh, just adjust things here. There we go. So I did show off what I had new at the time. I'll just recap with a little bit of FUBAR to begin with. So because from that expo, I guess not everybody understood the gameplay. So I'll describe it a little bit. I did create one save file ahead of time. So I'll just cut right to the chase. I'll restart it and start recording the video on the emulation side. All right, there we go. So, once again, this is FUBAR. I have a preloaded save file here. And I do have my Ultimate PC interface, by the way, with my Sears Super Video Arcade controllers. Anyhow, so this one save file. So I'm the player that's going to be painting blue. That's why you see a donut there. Everybody else has a gray smiley face. Those are AIs. So everybody's on a different team, and we have Elimination Mode 1, which means whoever does the worst at the end of each round is out. And it's going to keep going until there's only one. The sixth player is going to be a griefer. That's why you see white behind him. Because the default canvas color is white. And ready to play. Do not save. It's already saved how I want it. Okay, so I'm painting blue. Everybody's on a different team. There are 7 teams. And then player 6, you'll see, is trailing me as a griefer, so I'm going to teleport away from... And the griefer teleported toward me. Now you'll notice that I'm moving orthogonally right now, not diagonally, when I'm painting over other people. And then I'm going to move diagonally when I'm over unpainted parts of the canvas. That's the general strategy. I'm also going to keep a quick eye out for who's doing the best and try to unpaint that color. I don't see anybody in the triple digits at the moment. Let me teleport away from there. I got the griefer coming toward me, and time's up. 10 is out. Alright, let's see how long I can stay in. So the rest of us all got 100 points for surviving the first round. Those of us who didn't do the worst are still in. Oh, I got that griefer coming toward me. Oops, I'm going to move orthogonally. I'm unpainting somebody. And... oops. No point going over my own color paint. That's kind of silly. Someone's shooting firecracker outside my backyard. That's cool. Because why not? It's fall after all. Alright, let's see how he did. Okay, black is out this time. So black has 100 points for surviving one round. The rest of us who are still in the game have 200 points. Again, player 6 is a griefer and is not part of any team. The griefers are just there to unpaint everything. And yeah, griefers chasing me down. That's nice. Kind of like the seal in Thin Ice. Hi, griefer. Yeah, keep your thumb on that hyperspace key. Just get out of there if someone's following you, especially if it's the griefer, because the griefer's got nothing to lose. Okay, looks like we had a tie. Dark green and yellow are both out. And then there were 3. Pardon my raspiness. It's that time of the year. Alright. Got a lot of new ground to cover here. Hi, griefer. Want to stay away from my blue paint? It's always anybody's game right up until the bitter end. I'm out. Okay. We'll let this run its course. There's only one round left, and it's between red and green. Do I really only have 34 minutes of video? That's interesting. Well, okay. I'll take one, move it to the cloud, and then I'll record the other half hour. No harm. Oh, time's almost up, and it looks like it's going to be Green's game. Yep. And here are the final scores. Alright. Let me turn up my PC volume a little bit. Alright, so you see Green is a winner with 500 points. Then we had Red with 400 points. Myself, Blue with 300. Dark Green and Yellow are tied for 200. Black had 110. Was out the first round and has no points. Alright, time to move on to something else. So that's a wrap for FUBAR. Let me just rename the video footage of FUBAR. Alright, next, I'm going to hop over to X-Ray and DILLIGAS. Oops, that's going to be in my indies. Alright. Again, let me start this over. Make sure I record. Here we go. Alright. I turned up the audio volume a little bit this time. You should be able to hear it better. I'll switch to tune B. So, I'm going to select X-Ray. I'm on the left side, which is blue. And I've got 4 diffusers, as you'll see up at the top. And let me fire at entry point 32 to begin with. Okay, so there's definitely a diffuser right here. Let's see. That's a hit. That's a reflect. That's a reflect. We got one right here. That's a reflect. That's a... Ooh. Ooh. What do we got here? We got a couple possibilities here. That also reflected. What about here? I'm going to submit this. Okay. So yes, right over here at entry point number 12, here's the other possibility for a reflect. The laser tried to pass in between 2 diffusers that were spaced 2 spaces apart from each other. It had nowhere to go but back. Okay. So, 31.5 seconds, I fired 8 lasers. That's not my personal best, but that's okay. Let me try one more time. This time I'll switch over to... Nah, I'll keep it on this. But I'll use the other player so that I can have 2 personal best records. Alright. Let's fire at entry point number 9 to start the ball rolling. Okay, there's a diffuser there. That reflected. Ooh, that went straight across. That reflected. We probably got one right there. Let's see what this does. Ah, here we go. Here we go. Okay, what do we got over here? Let me try it. 20. Ooh. Just over 20 seconds. 8 lasers, but you know what? Just over 20 seconds. That's got to be a new personal best time. I like that. I like that a lot. Now, let's go back. And you'll see here I've got 2 personal bests here. One for player 1, one for player 2. For 4 diffusers. Let me go over to DILLIGAS. And let me change the music. Okay, oh, you know what? Let me back out. I want 7 gumballs. Here we go. I like DILLIGAS better with 7 gumballs when I'm playing in single player mode. So let me capture all them gumballs and gain extra time and a point. Good. Oh. Good. Now, I'll remind everybody, this game takes advantage of all 16 directions of the disc. Also, X-Ray takes advantage of all the controls. Every unique action button, every key on the keypad for both players. So it puts the Intellivision controllers to full use. Now, let me show you something. Even in single player mode, you can use both discs for double the power. Let's see how much better I do here. I'll play to 10 points, and then I'll pull the plug here, because I've got a lot of ground to cover. So yeah, that's a little secret. That also means two people can play cooperatively even in single player mode. The only time to play competitively is in the two-player mode. Let's see here, and got it. Nice. I'll do one more and then I'll stop. Nice, okay. So there you see the personal best number of points for DILLIGAS. Now you'll notice that player 1's personal best for X-Ray disappeared. The reason for that is because I changed the number of targets to 7, and there's no record yet for 7. If I switch back to 4 on player 1, there's that personal best again for 4 targets for X-Ray. I can let a couple of 2-player games go and just see who wins by default. Okay, that's the dogtooth sewing pattern you're looking at. Again, it has to do with both players are controlling that same zapper, which is silver now instead of gold. Whatever color the hole in the middle is pointing to in the background, black or white, determines what color reservoir that gumball goes into. So you want to steer the zapper toward the gumball when it's looking at your color reservoir, which is black for player 1, white for player 2. You want to try to steer it away when it's not going to be your gumball. And as you can see, player 2 just got the 4th and final gumball. Player 2 wins. We'll do one more. Oh, preferably with, there we go. Okay, so this time we got the sort of crosshash pattern. Let me try to speed this up a little. Again, you're going to have 2 players jostling each other because these crosses are because the crosses are kind of small, it's kind of hard to get it over your color. So this one's a little more challenging. Ah, the yin-yangs. I kind of like this one and the Phantom masks the best. Because this one has like large areas of a single color, which kind of lends to better strategy. Let's see if we can get that. Let's keep trying. There it is. The Phantom masks, I like to think of it as. So again, you got large areas of single color. Oh, and of course, 3 of the gumballs all went to player 1 right away. Oh, and looks like player 2 got that 4th and final gumball there. All right, that's it for X-Ray and DILLIGAS. Okay, put these 2 controllers down for a sec. My space is a little bit limited here, bear with me. And let me see, what's going to be next? I think I'll play a little bit of a Better Mousetrap first. Then I'll go to... then I'll stop this recording and do the other half hour later. So, I'm going to go to my ROM hacks. So this is brand new. We just released this at Retro Game Con last weekend. That was in Syracuse, New York. And I want a Better Mousetrap. Okay. Started the audio recording. I just realized I should have. Anyway, that's okay. I can rename that later. So here it is. Midnight Blue International and Intellivision Revolution present a Better Mousetrap. Copyright 2022 Intelab, that's me. Original arcade game, copyright 1981 Exidy. Intellivision port, copyright 1982 Coleco. Okay, now, this is the attract screen from the original arcade game, which had an attract mode. So, the way I implemented was I integrated it into the number of players, which you remember from the old Coleco games. So, now the reason why I had to split it into two screens is because, one, I don't have enough real estate on an Intellivision display to show all of the instructions, because the arcade game was portrait orientation as opposed to landscape. Two, remember the Intellivision only can display 8 sprites, and I'm using all 8 here in this first screen. Okay, so number of players, I'm going to select 1 player, and now you get the rest of the instructions here. And then difficulty level, I'm going to put it on 3. That's where I'm most comfortable myself. Okay, here we go. Now I want to see if I can... Oh! Yeah. I want to see if I can get all 4 prize fanfares plus an end-of-level fanfare. Oh, let me take the N. Nah, exactly opposite where I wanted to be. Oh well. I had to eat that dog biscuit. Come on, move it. Ah, boy. That's the second prize fanfare. Ah! And of course the dog button didn't respond. I'm playing with original controllers. Of course. And I have nagware that I need. Haha, I was quick on the draw that time. Let me go get them prizes while I can. It's number 3. That's the 4th and final prize fanfare. So now you've heard them all. Now let's end off this level. Ah! Hawk. Remember, the hawk can always eat you, even if you're a dog. You're never safe from the hawk. Unless you enter the inn to make hawk stupid. I didn't write that text, by the way. Well, okay, I did for the Intellivision port, but that's how it was originally. Yeah. Just as I was about to finish, of course. Anyhow. I got in the original arcade fanfare, both the tune and that explosion animation. Responsive controls. Now again, I know there's a different death tune based on whether the cat or the hawk gets you, but I only had so much ROM space left to go. Anyway, I'll finish this game off, and then I'll tell you a couple technical details before I wrap this half hour up. Whoops, that was a mistake. I thought that cat was going to get me. Because it's better to be safe, anyhow. Yeah. Okay. Usually I score about 40 grand. Somewhere in that range. So this is my personal best, but I got to see the end of the level fanfare, and I died. And we got all 4 prize fanfares. So that was all the features I wanted to show. Anyhow, okay. So let me close this out. let me close this out. Let me rename these couple of... okay, so this one was X-Ray and DILLIGAS. And this other one was... I'll just call it Mousetrap. Alright, so, a couple things I wanted to tell you about a Better Mousetrap. Now, I could put it up on the big screen right here and show you, except I don't have my portable Intellivision development environment hooked up currently. I do have all the parts here. But anyhow, one little secret I wanted to let you in on. I did a Better Mousetrap entirely through thousands of ROM pokes. That's right. This is all through ROM pokes. And then it was converted to .ROM format. And then put right into cartridge, and it worked like a dream. Yep. So anyhow. So what I did was I combined my knowledge of, one, the executive ROM from when I originally wrote Same Game in Robots, two, my knowledge of assembly language from when I originally wrote Same Game in Robots, three, my musical background. So of course I, could hear, to get the fanfares to be arcade perfect. What I did originally, I watched a YouTube video of the game replay, and I bookmarked every one of the 4 prize fanfares, and I slowed the playback down to like 1/4 of original speed, and I just kept hitting them bookmarks over and over and over and listening for all the channels to make sure I got it perfect. So I got it. Same thing with the end of level arcade fanfare, and also I did screen captures of all 8 frames of that animation you saw. Now, one thing is, because the Intellivision maze dimensions here ended up being 26 by 24 colored squares, I did have to truncate a little bit, because in the arcade it was 32 by 32 colored squares. And I just kept it one color. I didn't bother having a different color for every video frame like in the arcade. But it's the same animation though, except for where it's clipped around all 4 edges. But I pulled it off. But again, yeah, it was all done through nothing but ROM pokes. And I have it heavily commented out because I have all the opcodes for every line of assembly. And I have it all in the comments, what the lines of assembly are. So all the branch instructions, everything, it's all there. I don't recommend anybody else does ROM hacks this way. That was just me showing off. Anyhow. Yep. So, I'll move on to my other 2 game reveals on the other half here. So, I'll see you in a little bit. Bear with me. Okay, welcome back. So, here's the rest of what I want to show today. Sorry if my cat's a little restless here. Anyhow, another thing I wanted to go over was the Little Man Computer. So I'll restart it here and start recording. Alright, so I put this out to have something new for Tutorvision, which I won't get too much into the detail, but I did create a full manual for it. And the other thing, too, is this is my first time trying my hand at something educational coming from a game developer standpoint. So what I did was I created a full manual. Now here I have each page in a paper protection sheet, and I had this binder with me at both Retro Game Cons this year. There was a junior event back in May, and then the full event that just happened last weekend. So you, of course, can just download this for free off of my website, along with the instructions, everything else. I did debut this on my Twitch channel last July, and I gave it a couple updates with some new addendums, whatever, but let me just get right into it with my, again, Still have my Ultimate PC interface here. Now, because there's a save file, it's not showing the welcome screen as it normally would. So I have here one save file. What happened was during the junior event back in May, somebody went and nuked all my save files. So, you know, that's okay. So I have your countdown. I think what I'll do is I'll just start from scratch. Okay, so here's our little man, and here are the 100 memory cells or mailboxes. I don't have to get too much into detail, except to say that I do talk about in my manual, page 28. I do talk about the Tutorvision itself. For those of you who don't know what it is, want another little, very minuscule piece of Intellivision history. And then on the first page, of course, in the intro, I talk about Little Man Computer itself. But just to get right into it, I'm going to start with one of the programming examples. I'll just key it in right here. So I want the first, alright, I'm going to do the first example, which is subtract one number from another, which comes off of the inbox. So I'll describe the screen a little bit here. So the little man right now is enjoying his coffee while he waits for you to give him orders. You're his boss. So he's working in this mailroom. You got 100 mailboxes. You have an input, you have an inbox up at the top there where it says in, and then you have the outbox, which shows this tape on the far right. In the middle there, in between in and out, you have the PC is program counter, and then beneath that is the accumulator, which right now it's showing the Z flag because its value is 0, Z for 0. So, I'm going to go right into the code editor by pressing 4 on the left controller. And yeah, those of you who played Earthworm Jim 2 recognize this tune. It's actually Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, first movement. And the kitty is settling down. Alright, so what I'm going to do is now I'm going to use the second controller to input my code. And here we are. Here we are. Okay. So the first line of code, we're going to do input. Now, input. Now I happen to know what the opcodes are. I'm going to press 9, and then we get, and this is controller 2, don't forget. You'll see that on the left, it put 00. That's the number of the code line. And then in the blue field, we have the mnemonic INP for input. And that spinning question mark, that's our cursor, of course. Up above, you'll see an asterisk appeared next to new program, meaning that we have unassembled code. Next, we're going to go down to the next line. Now for input, the cursor doesn't automatically go down to the next line because you can press 9 a second time to get the output mnemonic. Store, I think, is going to be 3. Okay, now, for this opcode, something's going to go into that brown field on the right. It's going to be our operand. So we don't have any symbols yet, so we have to create a new symbol. So I'm going to move the cursor up to new symbol, and I'm going to press the action key. This brings us to here, and this is how I handled text entry. It's just like a Nokia phone. So we're going to key it in with a keypad. Capital F. And you'll see a second cursor appears with the original cursor kind of moving toward it. That's the timeout for if you want to key in 2 consecutive characters on the same keypad number. So for I, it's going to be 1, and I'll hit the 4 key 6 times to get a lowercase I, because I'm fussy like that. Okay, lowercase r. Now remember, P, Q, R, S are on the 7 key, so I'm going to hit the 7 times to get to the lowercase r. Okay, and then I have to wait for the cursors to align because I want an S, which is also on the 7. And now 8 will give us our T. Okay. Bear with me. Okay. Now I'm going to press the Action key, which is the top side button here on the controller 2 to... Or was it Enter? It was Enter, okay. No problem. All right. So now that took that... It created that symbol first and put it in our list of symbols, which you'll see later. But it also put that in our operand field. The next line of code is going to be another input, so 9 again, and then I have to manually go down for that. Store, and now here we have our existing symbol first, which we could pick if that's what we wanted, but we don't. Oh, by the way, if you want to follow along, I'm in page 9 of my manual. Okay. New symbol. I should have said that first, but that's okay. I figure there's probably going to be exactly one of you that's going to follow along. Let's be real. I'm going to make another symbol here. So, capital S. Okay, we want E, C, O, wait for the cursors to align, N, and D. Okay. Second, that's what we call it. So we have a second symbol called second. Next, we're going to load first. Now we already have this symbol, so I'm just going to move up and pick it. Now we're going to subtract second from the accumulator. And I'll explain in a minute what these lines of code do. 2 is the mnemonic for subtraction. And you'll see that it just panned up one line, so you can see your current line of code still on the screen above the symbols pane. Okay, subtract second, and then we're going to output. So we press 9 twice for output. Then we're going to go down, and we're going to tell it to halt, which the default mnemonic for halting is COB for coffee break. You can change that in the LMC settings. Whoops. I don't know why I moved to the left like that, but that's a... Oh! Anyway, I wanted to be here anyhow. Now in the green field, finally, we're going to put a label here. First. And this is going to be... You'll see that... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, you know what? I wanted COB here. I'm going to delete this... There we go. This is what I want. Okay. Now, you'll see it puts in COB by default when you add a label. I'm going to press 0 to switch it over to DAT. You'll see the cursor jumps over to the operand field. I'm going to do 0, just have the default value 0. And enter. Okay. So now we have the number 0 in there. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here. We're going to have a second label, and then I'm going to press 0 to change this to DAT. And this is also going to be 0, and enter. And that's it. We're ready to compile. Now, 2 ways that you compile. The way I'm doing it is if you have the cursor sitting in the blue mnemonic field on a new line, you can just press the Action key and it'll compile. It says assembling program, assembly successful. Press any keypad key. Now, I'm going to go back to the left controller and press 4 to get out of code editor mode and back to our simulation mode. So what just happened? The little man put his hands up in the air as if to do a magic trick. The assembler saw that code is ready to be populated into the 100 mailboxes. So it translated the 3-digit opcodes for each line of code that we had done. Now all there is to do... Oh, one more thing we have to do. I'm going to press 5 on the left controller to go to the input-output tape viewer. Goodness. Sorry, that's my computer being slow. That's why we're having a little bit of audio degradation there. Okay, anyhow. So what you see here on the left, on the far left, is the input tape. And then you have a divider just next to it, pointing to in and out. And then just to the right of that, you see the entirety of the output tape, which right now both tapes are blank. If you look very carefully in the very bottom left corner, you'll see that cursor again. I'm going to switch over to the right controller again, and I'm going to put 2 values here. Now the accumulator can only go up to 499. So I'll put the values, say, 400 and 300, which one will be subtracted from the other, giving us 100. So I'm going to press the action key for insert, the top action key that is, and I'm going to type 400 and press enter. Okay, so 400 is now in the input tape. And the value at the bottom there in the corner, that's the first value that's going to get fed to the little man when he executes our program. I'm going to insert another value because we need 2 values. I'm going to put 300 here. Enter. Okay. Back to controller 1. Okay. And let's see what happens. I'm going to press 5 to get back to simulation view. And there are 2 ways you can do it. If you press enter, that'll simply execute the program. If you press 0, that'll also execute the program, but in what's called step mode. So it'll automatically pause after each full step has been executed. So I'm just going to press enter. And here we go. You'll see what he's doing. First he's getting the first opcode from, and he incremented the program counter. He's getting that 400, and he put that on the accumulator. Next he's reading, okay, 01 is where I get my next instruction. He read 08. He's going to increment the program counter, read what 308 is, which is to store at memory cell 08, that 400 from the accumulator. Off he goes. He's reading 901. Which says to get that 300 off of the input tape, and that goes onto the accumulator. Continuing on, 309 is reading off the tape, and that means put it at memory cell 09. Alright, so that whole leftmost column of mailboxes is populated now. 508 means load from 08 onto the accumulator, so that 400 is going back on the accumulator. And now the next instruction, 209, 200 is for subtraction. So he's going to take the the mailbox 09, that 300, and subtract what's already in the accumulator, which will give us 100. There it goes. Next, 902, that's for output. So he's going to take that 100 off the accumulator and put it on the output tape. And there it goes. Next, he's going to read 07 here, which is 0. 0 is the opcode for coffee break. Done. That's it. That's a full program execution. And we have the desired output. Down there in the far bottom right corner, we've got the number 100 on our output tape. Because remember, I input the numbers 400 and 300. So one got subtracted from the other. So that's the Little Man computer. In the interest of time, I'll just quickly go over some of the menus here. For example, if I go to here's our LMC options menu. Number 1, the mailbox order. I have it set to XY by default so that the first 10 mailboxes populate down the left column instead of populating across the top row. The reason I did that is because each mailbox takes up 1.5 background cards. This is why Little Man Computer only runs on the Tutorvision, because the Tutorvision had enough graphics RAM for me to do what I wanted to do here. The Intellivision doesn't. And what it is I wanted to do was have every combination of 2 digits populating a single tile. So I needed 100 graphics RAM positions just for that, plus another 10 to have a digit just on the left half of a tile or card, and another 10 to have just a digit on the right half, then another 6 for negative numbers. So 126 right there, plus then the 2 more for the up and right arrows, which will appear to be the same as either whether you're using the Intellivision or Tutorvision graphics ROM. it'll put in the matching up and right arrows. Because remember, graphics RAM is up and left arrows. Down and right arrows I have to put in a graphics RAM. So right there with those other two arrows, we've already doubled what the Intellivision has for graphics RAM. We've used only half of what the Tutorvision has. The other half is the little man himself, the decorations around the mailbox area, and all our mnemonics. Anyhow, but because of that, though, you'll see digits kind of bleed one to the next, and it's kind of hard to see where one mailbox ends and the next begins unless I have it going down each column by default. Next, you'll see option number 2, coffee break, in quotes. That's where I said we can change the instruction to be HLT for halt, as opposed to COB for coffee break, but it does the same thing. Next, number 3, do we allow negative values, or do we show large values? That talks about the accumulator. Now remember, the accumulator I said can only go to 499. Because it's signed, it can go down to minus 500. It's still going to be a negative number if we have 500 or above, but you can see large values if you want. Next, number 4 says, what do we do in the event of an overflow or underflow? If something adds to the accumulator and it goes above 499, or if it goes below minus 500 in a subtract operation, what do we do? In this case, the line below, it says hold min-max value, meaning if you try to go above 499, it'll stay at 499. If you try to go below minus 500, it'll stay at minus 500. We have 3 options here. This says wraparound, so if you got 499, you try to add 100, it'll become what would be 599, but now becomes negative 401. Or the third option, throw an error on accumulator range. So I'll put it back to the default, hold min-max value. Option 5, no negative value error. Or we have error on negative value. Now what does that mean? That means if the accumulator is a negative value and you try to put that onto a memory cell, one of the mailboxes, do we throw an error or do we just allow it? Now, the mailboxes are unsigned, meaning their range is 0 to 999. So if the accumulator had a 500 in it, or shows 500, it's actually minus 500, you go to write what you think is going to be minus 500 on the mailbox and it comes out 500. Because that's the equivalent large number. 6, NOP invalid opcode. What that means is if it reads an opcode that's not an opcode, just do a no instruction, just do nothing. Or, the other option, once again, throw an error for opcodes. And you're never going to see that if you assemble your code. That's only going to be if you actually poke values. Where you might get that is if you accidentally read data as code. Finally, we have wait for input. That's number 7 here. What that means is if you didn't preemptively put values onto the input tape like I did, remember I added 400 and 300 to the input tape. If you don't do that ahead of time before program execution, here the little man will just stop and point to the inbox and tell you what value do you want. And it'll sit there and wait and then resume program execution. Or the way it normally would be, throw an error once again. All right, those are the options. But now we'll go to the sound test real quick before I move on to my next file here. As you'll see, it's all classical music. So we have this from the tape viewer. This from the options. This is Gabriel Fauré's Pavane, otherwise known as Opus 50, in F-sharp minor. This needs no introduction. This is Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, first movement. You heard this in the code editor. The Song of the Volga Boatman, that's where'd my volume go? That's funky. It must have misread a right disk input. The left disk will control the music volume. That's what happened. Let me try this again. That is... Must be an issue with my must be an issue with my controller interface. It must be accidentally throwing a right disk input for 4. Oh well. Anyway, Song of the Volga Boatman we use in the event of an error. Bach's Minuet in G major. That's when we're just sitting there watching the little man's coffee break. Bach's Invention number 8. And finally, Flight of the Bumblebee, which we heard already. Anyway, in the interest of time, I'm going to go right now to my new program reveal, my new game reveal. And it's not a Better Mousetrap. Okay. Once again, I'll restart to do a full video capture here. Okay. So here it is. JOMRATI and GoldDigger. I actually wrote JOMRATI, my mother requested it. So, this I have written. I wrote this just in time for Easter earlier this year. And no publisher has picked it up yet. So we'll see who does. But I'll get right into it. I'll just do... I'll start with GoldDigger. Now, both of these are actually Windows 3.1 games. Now, 1 or 2 people can play here. What we're trying to do is find the gold. Okay, I'm 10 steps away from the gold. And diagonal does not count. 18 steps away. 20. 21, I'm getting colder. 27, getting even colder. 30. Okay. 8. Okay, we're in the right direction now. 4. Gosh, I don't know. 2. 4. So, it took me 28.5 seconds and 12 moves. Anyway, that's just a tiny game. And again, 2 people can play and compete with each other. You share the same time, but you can see who finds it and who finds it in the fewest number of moves. Back to the main menu. So you'll see here on the menu, it's showing the best number of moves and best time, and then below that, the number of moves and the time for the last game. Now we're going to go to JOMRATI, and I'll let this go in a I'll let this go in a 2 CPU battle. So I can just sit here and talk. Okay. So there are 2 different CPUs. One is called conservative, and the other is called aggressive. But yeah, this game, JOMRATI, stands for just one more roll, and that's it. And this was originally written by Eastern Software Solutions for Windows 3.1. I could not find this on the internet. I found one website which talked about it, but had a dead link for a download. Fortunately, I still have the original Software of the Month Club CD-ROM, which had it on it. You just need VBRun300.dll to run it. I ran this on a Windows XP computer earlier this year, and it worked just fine. So, again, you can see this is a game of... Oh, somebody just rolled the zap. See, that 5 and 6 were randomly rolled at the start of the game to decide what would cost you points if you hit it. Now, you can only get... only one of the players can get zapped only once. And then there's also the bonus. There's the first roll, in this case, is going to be a 1 or a 6. That'll be a bonus. But again, it's random each game. Anyway, the way the game works, it's like Pig, I guess, or Craps. But it's die game of chance. Whatever the first die roll is, in this case, for each round, in this case, the one active player rolled an 11. And you're going to keep rolling. You can either, after each roll, you can cash in your points you've earned for the round, or you can try again. If you roll another, in this case, there, see the one player had rolled an 8 again, after having rolled an 8 at the start of the turn. then you're bust. No points. So the game lasts 10 rounds, and then the highest score wins. So here, once again, the first roll was an 8. So we're into the third round. It also randomly decides who goes first. It's not always player 1. Yep. Okay, so rolled another 10. So yeah, this game you use the keypad 7890 to play. 7 is to do your first roll, and then 7 is to keep rolling after that. 7 is the roll key. Of course, I did make a mock-up of an overlay. 8, I think, is if you want to buy insurance when you have the points to afford it. 0 puts you into high-risk mode, and then finally 9 is when you want to voluntarily end your turn. Oh, here's high-risk mode. If your first roll is a 6 or below, you can choose to only roll 1 die, which increases your odds of going bust. But it also increases a point value of the pip count for each of your subsequent rolls. Okay. Okay, so I have about 6.5 minutes left of footage. We'll see if the game ends before then. And if not, so be it. Okay, we're back in high-risk mode. Obviously, high-risk mode is only available if your first roll is a 6 or below. See, that paid off. So the second player just cashed in 90 points and is a lot closer to catching up to player 1. Oop, bust. One thing I should say, too, is that the way the CPU looks at both players' scores. If the CPU is falling behind the other player, the CPU will divide by the number of remaining rounds by how far the CPU is trailing, and use that to decide how many points to shoot for. So, say if it was round 6 still, that would be 5 rounds to go. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you're behind by, say, 200 points, that means you need to average out 40 points per round, so the CPU would never stop rolling before having gotten 40 points. Or more. Okay, we're into the 8th round. Looks like,
It's 11 o'clock. Aren't you going for work?
I leave in 15 minutes, dear. But thank you. Alright. Anyhow. Yeah, very fortuitous that I've only got a few minutes of footage left, because it's about time for me to head off to work. You heard my wife just say. She didn't know my schedule. We're into round 8. Looks like we will finish in time. Let me see. Meanwhile, now, I'm still not fully unpacked from Retro GameCon, so stuff I otherwise could show you right now, I don't have here in my lab. Like, I had boxed copies of all my games sitting happily behind my computer monitor here. I still have my original boxed text adventures back there, and a couple other things, but not my boxed copies of my Intellivision games that I wrote. So I can't show the box for Better Mousetrap. It's still boxed. The TV's off because, again, I use that to broadcast my my X environment for when I'm actually doing real live Intellivision game development. And I'm in my lab. And because... Oops. Oh, we're in the last round now. Round 10. Oop. Okay. So it comes down to this. Let's see. Player 2 needs 106 points to win. In high-risk mode, just might be able to pull it off. So this just could be anybody's game. Getting there. Getting close. Ooh, an evil offer. Oh, didn't take the evil offer. Didn't need to. Won by 1 point. And called it a day. Yes, the evil offer is another feature that every once in a great while the CPU will throw at you and say, roll again and I'll add a few more points to your round score. So the CPU knew, no, I'm about to win. I don't need it. But thanks. So there we go. The second player won by a single point. Nice comeback. Okay, so that's everything I wanted to show for this hour, and thank you so much, and I hope you're enjoying the show. I know a lot of you are probably out right now at Portland Retro Gaming Expo. So that's that. Again, thank you for visiting my lab, and we'll probably talk again pretty soon. Back in the menu. So yeah, the best score was 306 so far this session. Again, I'm not using a JLP for this. The last scores were between the computer conservative and the computer aggressive. That's what CCCA is. So the conservative CPU got 305 points. The aggressive CPU made it with 306. So this is JOMRATI and GoldDigger. And when it gets published, who knows? But again, I wrote this because my mother requested JOMRATI. She and my sister used to play together on the computer many, many years ago, like 25 years ago. So that's that. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you later.